Welcome. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to tonight's Acts 2 workshop, Managing Difficult Caregiving Situations. Small changes have big effects. I'm Dr. Rob Glukoff, servant leader of the Acts 2 project and professor, Florida State University College of Medicine. In case you are unfamiliar with the term Acts 2, it stands for African American Alzheimer's Caregiver Training and Support Project 2. Folks, I am very excited about tonight's workshop. Our featured presenters will provide guidance in identifying triggers of stressful caregiving situations and dealing effectively with these problems when they occur. They also will highlight strategies to increase cooperation in daily caregiving activities and to maintain the independence of the person with dementia during these activities as much as possible. Unfortunately, many family members receive little or no information about these key issues from healthcare professionals when they begin their caregiver journey. A particularly important component of tonight's workshop is a first-hand presentation from a caregiver peer describing her experiences in dealing with difficult caregiving, challenging caregiving situations, and how she successfully negotiated these experiences in dealing with some challenging moments. Before I introduce this evening's presenters, I want to recognize our partners who have contributed both resources and guidance in the development of the Acts 2 Caregiver Workshop Series. The Acts 2's primary collaborators are the Florida State Primitive Baptist Convention, the African Methodist Episcopal Church 11th Episcopal District, the Florida General Baptist Convention, the Florida Progressive Missionary and Educational Baptist Convention, and FSU's College of Reach Project. Turning now to tonight's presenters, we have three exciting speakers: Sonny Majewski, Tracy Wilkinson, and Tamika Norton-Brown. And I, folks, have the distinct privilege of serving as moderator for this evening's workshop. Our first presenter, Sonny Majewski, received her Bachelor of Science in Psychology and Master of Social Work degrees from Florida State University. She is a practicing licensed clinical social worker and adjunct instructor at FSU's College of Social Work. Ms. Majewski has worked for approximately 10 years in the area of dementia care. She currently serves as coordinator of the Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare Memory Disorder Clinic, where she provides education, counseling, and support to adults with dementia and their family caregiver. Sonny also serves as co-chair of the Big Bend Dementia Care and Cure Initiative Task Force. In her limited spare time, Sonny enjoys hiking and kayaking. Our second presenter, Tracy Wilkinson, has a very close-knit family consisting of her daughter and son-in-law, as well as 5 wonderful grandchildren. She attended Edward Waters College's Accelerated Climb program, focusing on leadership in business and management. Ms. Wilkinson has worked in mortuary science for over 20 years and is a certified life coach. Ms. Wilkinson currently works as manager of residential living at the Jacksonville-based Job Corps. Note that Ms. Wilkinson has been highly involved in the Acts 2 project, first participating as a group member when she was a caregiver for her dear mother with dementia, and now as group facilitator for other caregivers enrolled in the Acts 2 program. She is a dedicated Christian and grounded in serving the Lord. Last, Tamika Norton-Brown is coordinator of the Acts 2 project. She has worked in the area of survey development and evaluation for approximately 22 years. She has served as a caregiver for her dear aunt and uncle with dementia and has a passion for helping others. Tamika has been a great source of encouragement and support for literally hundreds of family caregivers of older adults with dementia across the state of Florida. She is a strong leader by example in her church community. Folks, during the course of this workshop, I encourage you to share questions to be answered after each presentation using the text message function of Facebook Live. We also will have a 15-minute question and answer period following the last presentation. And now we have Miss Sunny Majewski. It is a great pleasure to have you here, Sunny, and what a privilege for us to have the coordinator of the Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare Memory Disorder Clinic with us to talk about difficult caregiving situations.
Thank you so much, Dr. Glukov, and thank you to X2 for having me and everyone who is watching now and later on for joining us tonight. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the different behaviors that you all may have seen in your caregiving experience, about finding the why behind those behaviors and how to address a couple specific behaviors. We'll talk about strategies to maintain the independence of care receivers, and of course, cover some ways to manage caregiver stress and distress. So we'll first talk about finding the why behind behaviors. It's important to remember that every behavior has a purpose, and sometimes we have to do a little bit of work to find out why that is. Most often, it is a form of communication. So dementia causes actual physical changes to the brain and affects not just memory, but also other areas of thinking and cognition, including the ability to plan ahead, to follow a plan, the ability to pay attention, and the ability to communicate. So that can present in a number of ways, but includes difficulty finding words, difficulty understanding what others are telling us, and difficulty expressing emotions appropriately. So, because people living with dementia experience changes in their ability to communicate verbally, they often communicate through other means, including behavior. Instead of being able to say something like, I really wanted spaghetti for dinner, but we're having chicken again, it might kind of show up as them just pushing the plate away or pushing the plate off the table. Any kind of agitation or behavior because they're not able to express it verbally. It also means that caregivers need to adjust the way that we communicate with them by doing things like including more visual cues and gestures and speaking in ways that are a little bit easier to understand. So again, behavior is used as a form of communication. Every behavior has a meaning, just like if you or I were to engage in any type of behavior, and it's used to communicate desires, needs, and concerns. And to be able to understand what the behaviors mean, we have to think about what factors might be influencing them. It takes a little bit of detective work on the part of the caregiver to determine that. So I'm going to specifically go through a few behaviors that you may have experienced as caregivers, but I want to first talk about a 3-step approach that can be helpful to keep in mind when dealing with any types of behaviors, even if they're not ones that I cover tonight. And I also want to say that you know your care receiver best, and you know that some of these tactics, these strategies may work well, and some may not be a great fit for you and your care receiver. And some may work one day and then not the next. So there's just a couple of things to give a try and a few things to think about. So this 3-step approach is to first specifically name the behavior. So instead of just putting it off as, she's agitated, she's irritated, look at what she's doing and say, mom gets upset when I tell her that it's time to shower, and she goes to the other room and tries to get away from the bathroom. So next, identify the cause. Think about some of the factors that might be involved. Think, what would make me do that behavior? And then finally, once we know the cause, we're better equipped to respond appropriately and address the root of the issue. Something else to consider is that it's sometimes better to accommodate the behavior when we can rather than to fight it. I had one caregiver call me several years ago. Her husband kept going into their home office and shuffling the papers around, getting them all out of order, and losing some papers, misplacing them. And she's tried, at that point, when she had called me, she tried locking the office so he couldn't get into it, or locking all of the papers away. He would get upset and then have an argument. He would ask where the papers are. So I asked her, and I said, what did he do when he was working? Well, he was a business owner. So he was probably pretty used to dealing with papers and filing things. So what we ended up trying to do to accommodate his behavior was putting away the important papers and maybe putting copies or different papers on top of the desk so that he could still go in and fulfill that need to move the papers around and feel like he was doing something helpful without getting any papers misplaced. So sometimes the answer is to accommodate the behavior when possible. All right, so some contributing factors to consider. You want to think about different things that, again, would cause you to engage in that behavior. It can be really helpful to keep a diary and write things down. It might reveal some patterns in your care receiver's behavior and help you figure out what the trigger might be. So looking at the time of day, for instance, if you have a care receiver who is trying to leave the house at the same time every day at 3 p.m., maybe the trigger is the time, and it might be because they picked up their children every day at that time, and they're following the habit that they did for many years of their lives. Next, looking at the environment. So do they tend to get upset in the same setting or around the same people? The level of stimulation, and that can be either when someone is overwhelmed or if they're bored. Either can cause some different behaviors that you might see in dementia. Considering whether they might be in pain or uncomfortable. So maybe they're just not feeling well but can't put those feelings into words. Sensory deficits. So is it possible that their vision or hearing has declined and they are reacting to that in some way? Personal strengths and interests. So do they have opportunities to engage in things that they're enjoying, that they're able to do? And then finally, looking at internal and external triggers. So is there something that's prompting this behavior that they're seeing or hearing or experiencing? Or is it something that might be more internal, like hunger or, again, pain or other feelings? So looking at a few specific behaviors, we'll start with managing medications. Some of the common challenges that caregivers call me with medications is refusing to take medications that their caregiver is trying to give them, or skipping doses, or even duplicating doses, so taking their medication more often than they need to. So after we've identified the specific behavior, we can kind of think about some different causes. So one of the causes might be forgetfulness. So they might think, did I already take this? And either taking it a second time or a third time, or not taking it at all. Confusion with time is also a symptom of dementia, and someone who is living with dementia may feel like they took their medication more recently than they really did, or they may feel like it was longer ago than it actually was because of their difficulty to judge time. If your care receiver is spitting out their pills or kind of pushing it around in their mouth, it might be because they have difficulty swallowing, so that's something to consider. Lack of awareness is also often a symptom of dementia, lack of awareness of their own symptoms. If they don't believe that they need to take the medication, they may be resistant to it. One that we see often or hear often is people that care for their care receiver that lives in a different home than them, and they'll visit and there's far more medication in the bottle than should be at that point. And it may be because they're having a hard time opening their pill bottles at home. They're not able to open it on their own, so they can't take the medication. And finally, distrust. So paranoia can be a symptom of dementia, that suspicion. And if it was myself and someone were to hand me a medication and tell me I need to take it, but I didn't know what it was for, I think most of us would probably say no. And that sense is only heightened in someone living with dementia who's experiencing that paranoia or distrust. So now that we've looked at some of the causes, some strategies to try, using a pill organizer that has each day marked, and even pairing that with a whiteboard that says, today is Wednesday. You could add some check boxes if you have AM and PM meds. A caregiver sets it up each week, and the care receiver is able to either take it on their own or the caregiver can do a little bit of prompting. Developing a routine, so maybe pairing medications with things that they already do at similar times each day. There is some evidence that people living with dementia can form new habits. So if your care receiver gets up every morning and goes straight to that coffee pot to drink some coffee, maybe pairing those morning medications with that coffee or with the first thing they're doing when they wake up. If it is truly unsafe and your care receiver is duplicating doses, it may come to a point where you need to secure the medications for their own safety. Some medications can be very dangerous if they're taken too often or too much. So it is important to keep safety in mind. And sometimes if you're getting the paranoia from the person, it may be helpful to get a note from their doctor. So asking their doctor to write a note that says, Miss Jones, please take this medication twice a day, with meals, and then sign it from the doctor. It can be really helpful to have a second voice telling them to do that, and then also to hear it from someone else that's not their caregiver. And finally, if swallowing is an issue, ask your doctor about alternative forms. Some medications may come in patch form or in a liquid form that might be a little bit easier to manage than a pill. All right, so next, eating. Some common challenges that I hear about is refusal to eat at all, maybe eating too much, eating all day, being really messy or having improper table manners while eating, so maybe eating with their hands, nutritional deficiencies. So I have some patients who will only eat candy and that's all their caregiver says they'll eat. And then problems dining out. So some causes to consider might be medication side effects. So some medications can affect our care receiver's ability to be hungry. Diminished senses. So I don't know about you all, but I know when I smell dinner cooking in the other room, I start to feel a little bit more hungry and start to, want to move towards eating dinner. But if your care receiver can't really smell as well, they may not be getting those cues. Decreased coordination may be an issue. So the person may have a hard time cutting their food, picking up a fork, even things like peeling fruit may be very difficult. They may be having oral or stomach pain, so due to dentures or due to a sore in their mouth, it just makes it really hard and painful for them to chew. They may have a decreased appetite due to their age or again due to medications. Sometimes people living with later stage dementia may have a hard time recognizing food or what exactly they need to do with it, especially if it's a newer food, not one that they're very familiar with. And then finally, another cause might be that they're just a little bit overstimulated. So if you brought them their dinner while they're sitting on the couch watching TV, or if they're at the table and there's a lot of other stuff on the table, they may have a really hard time switching their focus from, watching TV mode to eating mode. So some strategies to try. Setting a routine can be really helpful. So eating at a similar time each day. You can even kind of get them into the mode of helping you prepare the food or setting the table. So doing things that they are able to do may kind of prime them for this is meal time. I'm going to set the table and then we're going to sit down and eat. Try to minimize distractions, so eating at the table rather than in front of the TV. Doing what you can to simplify the environment. So again, eating at the table, just keeping the necessary items there, not a whole lot of extra decorations or anything around. Dine together. So this works in a couple ways. One, you're able to model what they're supposed to do, so they can kind of look to you for some cues of, okay, I can just pick up the sandwich and eat it with my hands, or, oh, like I need to scoop this soup with a spoon. And it's also just a little bit nicer to be able to eat with someone rather than dining alone while they're off in the other room doing something else. Offering snacks throughout the day that they can eat can be helpful. It might work that they're able to eat several snacks throughout the day rather than 3 large meals. So again, I spoke about accommodating the behavior. So if the person is unable to manage a fork and a knife, maybe providing foods that are able to be eaten with their hands. So chicken tenders, peeled fruit, things that they don't have to do much with and can just pick up and eat with their hands. There's also some research that shows that high contrast dishware, so red dishes, red plates, can be really helpful in getting someone who's living with dementia to eat a little bit more, because they're able to differentiate the food on the plate much better. It can also be helpful just to not crowd the plate so that they can really tell what they have in front of them. And then finally, allow extra time. So if you're rushing to get to an appointment and you're trying to get your care receiver to eat a meal really quickly before this appointment, it can turn into a really stressful situation for both of you. All right. So next is getting dressed. So some common challenges I hear about with this is getting resistance to getting dressed, or one I've heard a lot is, I'll tell mom that she needs to go into her room and get ready and get dressed. And 20 minutes later, I go in and she's just sitting on her bed, or she's just standing in front of her closet and she hasn't gotten dressed at all. Care receivers might choose inappropriate choices either for the weather or for the occasion for where you're going. They may have a somewhat disheveled appearance, so maybe their buttons aren't quite lined up or buttoned correctly. It might be mismatched outfits, so clothes that don't quite go together. Or you may experience them disrobing, so taking their clothes off in inappropriate places. All right, so thinking about some causes for that, especially the resistance or the, taking a very long time to get dressed, it might be overwhelming. So they're looking at a huge closet full of a ton of different options and not really knowing what to wear, having to think about, where are we going? What's the weather like? Who's going to be there? What can I wear? Which of these clothes fit? Which ones can I button and get on? It might be confusion. So again, getting ready to go somewhere is really a process. And for a lot of us, it's automatic, but it does need to be done in a certain order. So you can't put on your socks and then your shoes and then put on your pants. You have to do that in that certain order. And that can be a little bit overwhelming and confusing for someone living with dementia. Might be discomfort, might explain either the disrobing or the resistance to getting dressed. So clothes might be too tight or too itchy or too hot. And that's when you may kind of see them taking their clothes off in an inappropriate place. Modesty may be a concern. So if this is someone who's been independent for most of their life, and now all of a sudden they're expected to be okay with getting changed in front of their adult child or a paid caregiver who might be a stranger, it's going to be a little bit embarrassing for them. They might be resistant to doing that. You may also see decreased coordination having an effect. So someone might have difficulty threading a belt through the belt loops or have a hard time buttoning really small buttons. And then finally, a lack of interest, which is a symptom of dementia. So they just may not feel up to going to church or dinner or an appointment or up to leaving the house. So now that we've thought about some causes, some strategies to try, first, simplify their wardrobe. So put away clothes that they either don't wear at all or clothes that aren't appropriate for the current season. And then maybe put away or donate some of the clothes that are harder to get into and out of. So clothes that are really easy to pull up over their heads, or pants with waistbands. This can be especially helpful if they have to use the restroom. If incontinence is an issue, they need to be able to quickly use the restroom. You can provide a few options. So pick out a couple appropriate outfits for the weather and the occasion. And that allows for a good balance between giving them independence and autonomy, but also reducing overwhelm. So they're not looking at this whole huge closet full of outfit options. They just have a couple different outfits to pick from, and it's a little less overwhelming. Also consider the comfort. So are they going to be comfortable in the clothes that they're wearing? Use a lot of communication. So if this person needs a lot of assistance with getting dressed, rather than just dressing them yourself without saying anything, kind of walk them through it. So, okay, Dad, we're going to go to church now. So would you rather wear this shirt or this one? Okay, I'm going to have you put up your arms and communicate and walk them through it rather than just kind of moving them yourself and dressing them yourself. Again, allow a little bit of extra time in your schedule. So if your appointment is at 2 and you have to leave your house by 1:30, 1:15 is probably not the best time to start getting ready. Start a little bit earlier so that you have that padding into your schedule. And finally, be flexible. So if their clothes are maybe not super well matched, but it's what keeps them happy and gets them out of the house, it might not be worth the argument to try and get them to change. All right. So now we'll talk a little bit about encouraging independence through dementia. Maintaining independence can help maintain the dignity of your care receiver, and then also preserve their activities of daily living skills like bathing, eating, and mobility, and then also helps maintain a sense of pride in the person. Rather than having everything done for them, they know that they're doing what they can do to care for themselves. All right, so a few ways to encourage independence is to establish a routine, so keep some consistency in day-to-day life. They know what to expect and they're not getting curveballs thrown at them. They can settle into a routine. Use written cues, so you can use a whiteboard or a large calendar and write down daily activities, things that are coming up. And that way, when they ask, what are we doing today? Or when is my appointment? You can say something like, well, let's go check the calendar together, and go look together and say, oh, look, it looks like your doctor's appointment is next Wednesday at 1. So rather than just telling them that, and then they would probably keep asking, if you're walking over to the calendar with them and showing them, they can start to form that habit of looking there first rather than asking you as the caregiver. Next, request household help. So everyone wants a purpose in life, and there's several ways you can do this. So it might be, Mom, I've got so much laundry right now. Can you fold my towels for me? Or can you set the table? Things like, Mom, my bookcase is very disorganized. Can you sort my bookcase for me? And if they don't do it exactly how you would do it or exactly how you think it should be done, that's okay. They have a purpose. They're using their hands, they're moving around, and you've given them something to do. Next, focus on their abilities. Think about what they can do rather than what they can't do. For instance, if they enjoy gardening, they may not be able to maintain an entire garden like they used to do, but maybe they could help with a hose or with a watering can, kind of small things that they're able to do things that they enjoy. And engage in meaningful activities. So rather than just spending all day watching TV, doing things that keeps them busy, things that are meaningful. So that might be arts and crafts, looking through photos, any kind of movement, socialization if you're able to. And finally, modify the environment. So you can do things like add shower bars or other changes that can help maintain their independence instead of having to be reliant on others. Okay, and finally, we'll talk about reducing caregiver distress, which is very important. Some things to keep in mind is first, pick your battles. So think about whether something is really worth having an argument over. You're likely not going to win an argument with a person living with dementia. And if it's not a safety issue or a health issue, sometimes it's okay to just kind of let things go. Next is to be flexible. So if you have the best day ever planned or a really great day planned, fabulous dinner cooked, your care receiver may still just want to stay home all day or have a peanut butter and jelly for dinner, and that's okay. Which is also why it can be really helpful to try and keep it simple. So try not to overcomplicate things for yourself as much as possible. And next is to ask for help. So, maybe you have a brother who isn't great at the day to day care of your mom like you are, but I bet he could mow the lawn for you or could take her for a walk or out to lunch so that you can get a little bit of a break. So, ask specifically for different types of help, whether that's from your family or from a paid caregiver, your care receiver's friends. And it doesn't necessarily have to be some big thing, it can just be something kind of small that they're able to do to give yourself a load off of your shoulders. Seek support, so through organizations like Acts 2, through a therapist, or possibly a church, or through other organizations that are local to you. I know in Tallahassee we have some really great resources, and I know they have them throughout the state as well. Every county in the state is also served by a memory disorder clinic. So that's where I come from, is the Tallahassee Memorial Memory Disorder Clinic. We have a 10 county service area, but every county in Florida has an MDC that is there for referral to resources, evaluation, diagnosis, emotional support, education, all different types of things. And then finally, step away. So sometimes you just need to take a break. If your care receiver is not doing something that puts themselves at risk, but is maybe doing something like asking you the same question over and over, or engaging in a repetitive behavior, maybe they have a pen and they're tapping on the table, and the tapping is kind of driving up a wall, or they're watching TV very loudly, and you can kind of feel your blood pressure rising. You can feel yourself getting a little bit upset. It's okay to step away for a moment, take some breaths, maybe practice some mindfulness or meditation, go to the other room, and step back in when you're ready. So all of that to say, I would imagine that most of the people watching probably have a lot of different little cups that they're trying to fill. So working, taking care of your children, taking care of your care receiver, all the other daily things that we have to take care of. But it's also very important to make sure that we've taken care of our own needs, because we cannot pour from an empty cup. We can't meet the needs of all of those other things without first meeting our own needs and taking care of ourselves. So here is my contact information. If anyone has any questions, please ask them now or at the panel at the end, but you're also welcome to send me an email or give me a call, and I'm happy to help you kind of work through if there's a certain behavior that you want to try different things with. I'm happy to work through that with you, but thank you all again for your time.
Thank you so much, Sonny Majewski. That was a very comprehensive review of some common and challenging caregiving situations. You did an excellent job in describing those situations, potential causes, and suggested tips. Have a question for you.
Sure.
I happen to be a care partner for my wife with mild cognitive impairment. And I do find myself wondering at times, what do I contribute to challenging caregiving situations by my own behavior? Do you have any suggestion for me or others and how we could be aware, cognizant of of how we contribute to both cooperative or potentially reactive behavior in caregiving.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think this is one of the ones that it's a little bit dependent on stage. So on the stage of dementia the person has, if they are earlier or more mild cognitive impairment, kind of letting them maintain that independence as much as possible through any stage, and asking them what they want. Honestly, a lot of the times they're going to be receptive to, you know, if you're having a hard time with this, do you want me to step in? How do you want me to address this?
Mhm.
Going from there. Yeah.
Well, that's a very good suggestion. I also was very impressed with your focus tonight on maintaining independence for your loved one with dementia, and I would assume even a sense of self-appreciation because they contribute so much to the family. Any tips on how to further reinforce the idea of independence? What do I need to do to pick out opportunities for me to do that as a caregiver?
So really anything that you're doing for them, so whether if you're cooking a meal for them or preparing a bath for them, looking at ways that they can be involved. So maybe it's doing household chores and you need the table wiped down, and that's something that they can do. Hey mom, can you wipe down the table for me? Or can you help me fold these towels? Any little types of things, and just trying different things out. Sometimes their abilities might exceed what you would assume. So give them a chance to try it. Of course, stay away from things that are dangerous. Be a little bit careful around the stove or around knives during cooking, but giving them a chance to try different things.
Thank you. I think we have a couple affirmations for you. Julie Menendez said, "Great info, Sonny Majewski." Thank you, Julie. From Nikesha Raquel, we have wonderful tips, Sonny.
Oh, thank you.
I think you know Laura Copeland. We're glad to have you here with us, Laura Copeland. Wonderfully helpful information, Sonny. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Well, thank you, Sonny. We're now going to move on to our second presenter, Miss Tracy Wilkinson. Welcome, Miss Wilkinson. It is a great pleasure to have you back on the Acts 2 Facebook workshop series. We're very excited about your presentation tonight.
Thank you.
Take it away, Tracy.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Um, it's a pleasure to be back, and I really appreciate the invite. It's very difficult, actually, even speaking on the topic. I'm going to be speaking on difficult, managing difficult situations with caregiving situations with dementia. Um, I was my mom's caregiver for a number of years. She was diagnosed with dementia, and it was a difficult challenge trying to get her to even accept the fact that she had dementia. So once because my mom was so independent and she just liked doing things on her own, and to get her to try to rely on family was just out of the norm. She was so used to doing for everybody and doing for us till she didn't want to accept help. And so just trying to manage the difficult dementia caregiving situation was a little hard. Um, Getting her to the doctors and trying not to get her to drive, and to see things our way was no. She was always, I'm the parent, you're the child, you're going to conform, not me. So it was just one of those things where we still had to be humble, even though she was the one, and I always like to call it the dis-ease. Even though it was a disease, it was a dis-ease. It's a dis-ease for her. And it was a dis-ease for us to have to see our mom go through something as such. It was a lot. It was a lot to have to see your loved one suffer like that. Um, as the previous presenter stated, you have to know it's a give and take situation. It's definitely a give and take. It's not so much as you do as I say, because they're depending on you because you're the caregiver. No, you have to still kind of give them their independence because they're so used to doing things on their own. So you can't just take from them. You can't take everything from them at one time because they're going to buck. They're going to buck against you because that's when they're going to probably try and get aggressive or progressively worse, or they're going to want to, sometimes they get combative. So you have to kind of still handle them with kid gloves because they revert back. Sometimes they revert back to children. So you have to, in my situation, I had to, or in our situation, we had to handle mom really, really careful. So we still had to give her a little bit of her independence. Um, okay, mom, we're going to the doctor today. You want to drive? But she's not just going to drive without someone being in the car because we need to know where you're going. We're afraid of you getting lost. So it was nobody but the divine order of God, the divine protection of God, that we never had to put out a silver alert on mom because she never got lost. She had a cell phone. So every time she knew if you left the house, if you were going around the corner. So she was allowed to go. And I say allowed, not to say that we treated her like a kid, but familiar areas that you were familiar, your familiarity, that you went in places that you were familiar with. But if they changed that familiar scene, you would get lost. So again, it was difficult. So you knew if you were going to the store that was familiar to you, you went right, straight, you came back home. But if they moved the tree, you were all discombobulated. And if we knew that ahead of time, we jumped in the car. Hey, mom, let's go for a ride today. You want to drive? Okay, well, you drive, I'll ride. Or if we knew we were going a long way, hey, let me take you on a scenic route today. Let's go driving. And she'll say, oh, I've never seen that before. But knowing we've traveled that way 50 million times, but every time that we rode that way, it was new to her. But every time she got excited, we got excited along with her because it felt good. So we didn't make her feel bad and say, oh, mom, you just saw that yesterday. No, we're not going to make you feel bad. We didn't make her feel bad because of her dis-ease. We embraced it along with her. But as Dr. Mayesha said, we identified a lot of times we couldn't understand her behavior. So we had to identify the behavior. We identified the behavior. We identified the cause and we responded to the behavior. A lot of times she didn't want to take a bath. We didn't understand. So we identified, well, what is it? Why are you not wanting to take a bath? It's not like you. You always bathe. You beat us for not wanting to bathe. So why aren't you bathing? Well, we identified the cause. It was cold. It's cold in here. Whereas we're hot, your bones, you're getting frail. So you're staying cold. Okay. So we responded to the behavior. Okay, mom, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna turn the heat on. How about we make the water a little warm for you? No, I don't want the water warm. I want the heat on. Okay, so we're gonna wipe you off. We're gonna give you a good bath, but we're gonna do it in the bed. We're gonna wipe you down real good. We're going to give you a good wipe down, but we're going to turn the heater on. In the room, we're going to sponge you down really, really good. We're going to cover this area up. We're going to put your clothes on. So we adapted to a way that she could live and live comfortably. Was it always easy? No, it wasn't. Sometimes it was difficult because sometimes she didn't want to cooperate. And when I say sometimes she didn't want to cooperate, what do you mean? Of course, I'm glad you asked. I'll share. There are times when I say, Mom, I laid your clothes out. Here's what you're going to put on today. What do you mean what I'm going to put on? You don't pick out my clothes. Oh, I know, Mom, but this is how I want you to look today. I want you to put this on for me. Can you put this on for me? I love to see you in this outfit. Okay, I guess. So I'll lay something out for her. Knowing she has an important business meeting to go to with us. Or maybe we're even going to the store, or we may even be going out to breakfast or dinner or something. Well, she has a doctor's appointment, a very important doctor's appointment. I get her clothes out. I lay her clothes out. I'm dressed. I go in the room. Mom, you ready? Yes. I go in. She might have on an orange top, some purple bottoms, and I'm just throwing out colors. Some green shoes, a yellow hat, and I'm like, "You're looking like the rainbow." What, Mom? And I didn't say, Mom, that's not what I picked out. I didn't spaz. I didn't snap. I said, Mom, that's not what I laid out for you. What are you doing? That, but it's what I wanted to put on. Okay, no argument here. Fine. It's a compromise. If that's what you want to put on, if that's what makes you happy, it's what makes me happy. Because it's all about you. It's all about what you want. It's all about making you happy. It's all about managing difficult dementia caregiving situations. You have to pick and choose your battles. And what you want to wear, it's not a battle because you're going through too much. You're going through much more battles in your head than I can ever imagine. And for what you want to put on, it's not a battle. So if you want to wear this compared to what I wanted you to wear, you're my mom. Let's go. We'll go with pride. I'm going to still hold your hand. I'm going to still sign you in. Yeah, that's my mom. And my sister will be like, what does mom have on? Hey, it's what she wanted to wear. Let's embrace it. She's still our mom. It's no big deal. But it hasn't always been easy. And not to sit and say that it's easy caring for someone with dementia, I wouldn't be telling the truth. But it's worth it. Would I do it again? Of course I would. But then there again, mom would sometimes double take her medications. What did I do with that? I got a pill bottle. I got a pill box. Mom, I have a pill box. So we're going to put your pills, we're going to separate it. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, AM, PM, AM, PM. So she didn't want to do it. So what did I do? Her favorite songs. We would sing her favorite songs while she took her medicines. By any means necessary, what it took to compromise with her, whatever it takes to compromise with a person with dementia. Let me tell you something. Again, it's not easy dealing with a person with dementia. Dementia has no age discrimination. It has no race. You don't understand what that person is going through. Yeah, the person that's given the care is the one that needs the attention, is the one that needs the care, because as my daughter said, we're the ones that's being beat up on. But listen, my mom passed on my birthday in 2021. I miss her dearly. But to have my mom back and to experience what she experienced, no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't. Because my mom lived with pride. And to have her to go through the dementia process all over again, and to see her having to go through hospice, and to wonder why you're not taking your medicine, why aren't you eating? It's because a lot of times she would have a hard time swallowing. It was a lot of discomfort for her. And I didn't realize it until she explained it hurts when I swallow. But if you don't get to know a person or sit down and really talk to the person with dementia, and you just think that they're just being difficult, you'll never know. So I admonish you, if you're a caregiver and you're a caregiver of a person with dementia, take the time to get to know that person and to get to really see what that person's going through. Don't just feel that they're being difficult, because a lot of times that's not the case. They're going through something. And a lot of times, more times than often, they don't know how to express it. So it's more than what they can express at the moment. So they're a lot of times they're acting out because they can't express it. So maybe they're not eating because they don't know how to say, hey, my throat's hurting. Hey, it hurts when I swallow. So I resorted to giving my mom soup. If you can drink, hey, you can drink this soup through a straw. Do whatever it's going to take to make them comfortable. Yeah, she went to making accusatory statements and things like that, but it wasn't my mom, because the person that you're caregiving for, if it's your loved one, know that your loved one will never do anything to hurt you. It's the dis-ease that they're experiencing. It's not the person, it's the dis-ease. So managing difficult situations and with a person with dementia, it's manageable. It's difficult, but it's manageable. It's hard, but it's easy when you love someone and when you're caring for someone that you really care about. Yeah, I'm very passionate about it because it's my mom. I'm very passionate about it because I'm a facilitator of the Acts 2 program. I'm a facilitator because I love what I do and I do it with passion. So please, if you are a caregiver or you know someone that's a caregiver, please take the time to get to know that person and know that that person is not just being difficult because it's just something to do. They're having a hard time managing. But I admonish you again to please know how to manage difficult situations with caregiving. It's not easy, but it's worth it. And that's all I have to say on that matter. Again, thank you for joining. And I hope I've helped someone today, because I've been delivered from it. Because there were times, and I'm not gonna tell you, there were times that I just wanted to throw my hands up. If I tell you that there weren't times that I didn't want to throw my hands up, I'd be telling a tale. There were times I wanted to throw my hands up and just walk away from it and tell my sisters, you all can have it. I'm done. But as I look back on it, it was worth it. I would go in my room and I would cry. As she stated, my mom wouldn't beat on a pencil. She would tap the pencil. She would rattle paper and it would irk my nerves. Oh my gosh. I would say, Mom, you have to do that. What am I doing? You're rattling that paper. No, I'm not. Okay, you win. I'm not going to argue with you, because at the end of the day, you're going to be right, because I'm still your child. So I'm not going to argue. I'll back up. I'll go to my room and I'll rethink this. I'll put my face in the pillow and I'll scream. I'll cry if I have to. But when I come out of my room, I'm going to be fine. So it's worth it. Trust me, it's worth it. So managing difficult dementia caregiving situations with small challenges, they have big effects. Trust me, it's all worth it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was outstanding, Tracy Wilkinson. Just have a couple questions for you.
Yes.
I was struck by what you said about your mom being very independent, which didn't surprise me in the least, knowing you. I guess the fruit doesn't fall far from the tree. The what was the process by which he, from your perspective, began to accept assistance when in the beginning she was maybe more reluctant? How did that happen?
Well, going to, and I'll tell you, I'll share with you how it all started. Um, the red flags were in front of our face. Mom had a grease fire in the house. She had 2 grease fires in the house, and we kind of brushed it off. And there was something else that happened to kind of prompt our attention. And I took her to the doctor, and the doctor, she went to the neurologist. And so they put her on some memory medicine. And then they did a test to test her memory. So I'm like, this is not looking good. So I consulted my siblings, and I'm like, this is not looking good for the home team. So I start speaking to Mom, and I said, Mom, and Mom would always say, I'm crazy. And she would just brush it off. I say, Mom, stop saying that. You're not crazy. She said, yes, I am. I'm crazy. And I said, Mom, you're not crazy. So we started noticing little things happening with the bank information. And I took over the bank statements and started paying bills. And I said, Mom, we need to talk. I'm noticing little things. And my mom was always on top of her bills. So I'm noticing little things that's going on with the bank statement. And at that moment, she agreed. She said, yes, I'll allow you to take over the bank information. And I got my older sister involved. And so she gave way to us to do that. And I said, I'm going to start going with you to the doctor. So she allowed me to start going with her to the doctor. But now, when she kicked against it was when I said, I'm going to take your license and your keys. And she said, no, you're not. So that's when we agreed to still allow her to have her independence, to give her still some of her independence. And she wouldn't give it all up to us. But she agreed that she needed help, that she needed assistance. And then once she agreed that she needed the assistance, she started going down slowly. And slowly, she started dwindling. And we were right there to catch her. And she started going down.
Amen. Thank you so much, Tracy.
You're welcome.
Well, we're going to now shift to Tamika Norton-Brown, and then we'll have our panel discussion subsequently. Tamika, we look forward to your presentation. Let's have Tamika. Well, where's Tamika? I see her slide. Where is she? Well, maybe she got disconnected. Hopefully, Tamika will be on shortly. We'll wait for about maybe 2 or 3 minutes. If there was maybe a technical problem in her neighborhood or she got disconnected, she should be back on shortly. There she comes. Welcome back, Tamika.
Yeah, I'm so sorry about that. My lights flashed, and so I disappeared for a moment, but I'm back now.
What I don't know why, but I had that intuition. You at least you kept us, very alert right at the toward the end of the 3 presentations. We're so glad that you're back. Take it away, dear Tamika.
Okay. If you'll go to the next slide, Amy, please. Okay. What I'm going to do is to give information on our Acts 2 Caregiver Project. Let me first of all say that we serve the entire state of Florida, and we have 3 primary objectives. The first is to do presentations like this, where we're increasing dementia awareness and knowledge through presentations and workshops at either faith community and elder care venues, as well as through social and print media. We also provide brief telephone-based problem-solving consultation and referral services to African American dementia caregivers and other stakeholders. And then thirdly is to deliver faith-integrated skills training and support to distressed African American caregivers of older adults with dementia. What I will also add is that what I'm going to do is give a description of our 12-session program that is only for African American caregivers within the state of Florida. But those that you see in number 2 about the brief telephone-based problem-solving consultations and the referral services are for any person, regardless of race and regardless of location. So I always refer to it as different branches of the tree. So one branch of the tree, the problem-solving information and referral, is available to everyone. The other branch of the tree, which I'm going to give a detailed description of, the 12-session program, is for African American caregivers. Next slide, please. Okay. Our Act 2 program is consisting of 7 group skills building, so 3 persons in a group, and 5 individual sessions. Let me also pause to say that everything that we do is free. So we use a toll-free teleconferencing system. We provide all of the materials, so it's absolutely free to participate with us. We also have what we refer to as lay pastoral care facilitators. And I know Ms. Tracy mentioned earlier that she is a facilitator, and they are the ones who deliver the weekly sessions by telephone. And what a lay pastoral care facilitator is simply a lay person from the churches, from the faith community, who has either seen a presentation and said, hey, I'm interested in serving as a group facilitator, and or they've been nominated by the adjudicatory leaders, and we train them to deliver the sessions. In those individual sessions with facilitators, it will focus on goal setting and problem solving. So we've been talking about problem solving this evening to address the concerns that have been identified by the caregivers. Next slide. Okay. Our program consists of 6 major components. The first is what we refer to as Dementia 101. So an overview of the basic characteristics of the dementias. We have relaxation training that's combined with calming prayer and or meditation. There is a myth that relaxing is just going home and getting in your favorite chair, when actuality, there's an entire process of having your mind, body, and spirit enter into the state of relaxation. So we train our caregivers on how to be able to relax. We also have effective thinking about the challenges of caregiving that's coupled with scripture. I will say that although we are faith-based, which means that we have woven in elements such as prayer, faith sharing, meditation into the actual 12-session program, that we are also ecumenical. So we are actually open to everyone. Next slide, please. Okay. We also have one of my favorite modules. I refer to it as the me time module, which is just being able to build in pleasant daily activities as a guard against emotional distress. Just negotiating, being able to get 15 minutes to take a walk or to listen to gospel music. We have communicating effectively, not only with the care partner with dementia, but with other family members and health professionals, and then developing those effective problem-solving skills through the personal goal setting. Personal goal setting is a very big one in my eyesight for caregivers, because oftentimes, as Ms. Tracy said before, you see these caregivers out with their loved ones in doctor's appointments or in church, but you don't you don't know about the 2 hours that they may have had to spend behind the scenes just trying to get them ready to go. So it's very important that the caregivers receive those 5 weeks where they can work one-on-one with their group facilitator toward any goals that they've set. Next slide, please. Okay, here are some resources that are available. We have the Alzheimer's Association, the Alzheimer's Foundation of America, the Florida Department of Elder Affairs, the Elder Helpline, Elder Care Locator, Alzheimer's Disease Education and Referral Center. Next slide, please. And also here, I do want to mention that in Tallahassee, in the local area, that we do have the Alzheimer's Project that is available to those caregivers in the Leon County area. How can caregivers contact the Acts 2 Project? There are multiple ways that we can be contacted. We have a toll-free number, 1-866-778-2724. My local cell phone number, 850-274-4945. My email address, tnnorton@fsu.edu. We have our Facebook page that you're on here tonight, Acts 2 Caregiver Project. You can always send us a message. We do respond to those. And we do have our website, www.acts2project.org. And what we're going to do is to show you our website. So Amy, if you bring the website up, please. Okay. Here on our Acts 2 website, we have a lot of resources that are available to caregivers. So here on our page under links, we have links to resources that are available not only in the state of Florida, but that are also available nationwide. If you will go to resources, please. This is one of my favorite pages that I use a lot. Under caregiver resources, we have prayers and readings. We have information on the basics of dementia. And we also have information under caregiver skills. So dealing like with difficult behaviors and those type things. So there's a lot of useful information on this page as well. If you will also go to donate. Okay. Here's information that will give info on how we are funded. We are primarily funded by grants and private donors. So if you're interested in donating to the Acts 2 Project, you can go to our donate page and it will have all of that information listed there. And if you will go to sign up. Okay. Here on our sign up page, you can come to this page, enter your information. If you just want to ask a question, if there's something you're not interested in, if you want more information about our program, you can fill out this page. And when you submit this form, it comes to my email address. So if there's something that you just want to ask a question about, feel free to come fill out the contact us page. It'll come to my email and we will absolutely be back in touch with you. So I thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about our program. What we're now going to do is have everybody come up so that we can have a panel discussion. If you have any questions that you want to ask, please feel free to do so.
Well, what a great workshop. We have the dynamic trio with us. Miss Wilkinson, Miss Majewski, and Tamika Norton-Brown, my dear sister in the Lord. Just wanted to begin with some questions that were raised by persons in the audience. Let's have the first one. Yes, from Nakisha Raquel. This is for you, Miss Wilkinson. What advice do you have for kid caregivers who are not pulling their weight in the care of the parent? That is advice for a lone caregiver to cope.
The advice that I have is to actually have a meeting, talk with each other and to see if you all can meet in the middle. Let them know how you're feeling, and maybe you all can come to some common ground.
Thank you, Tracy. Sonny or Tamika, do you have anything you want to add to that with, say, younger persons who are helping out with the, I'm assuming this, Miss Raquel, please forgive me if I've missed the point. You have younger persons who are involved in the care of an older family member. Is that your assumption too, Miss Wilkinson, or not?
That's my assumption.
Okay,
Am I
let's.
correct?
Yeah, well, I don't know is the answer.
Yeah.
But we'll find out. Miss Raquel, send another message to let us know if that's the case. Any suggestions for you from you, Miss Majewski or Sonny, in involving younger family members in the care of their loved ones with dementia?
Yeah, I think you make a great point, Tracy, about, if you have a set of siblings and you're really the lone caregiver and they're not doing anything, they may be kind of watching from outside and being like, oh, she's got it, he's got it, they don't need much help. When meanwhile you're kind of drowning yourself. So first, making your needs known and telling them how they can help you, and then also kind of looking at their strengths. So maybe they're they don't have a lot of patience. They might not be very good at spending a whole day with her, but there's probably something that they can do. Maybe they can even cook some meals, deliver some meals so that you have one less thing that you have to do, or they can come over and clean so that you don't have to clean. So one, making your needs known, and then two, kind of using their different strengths, and working together so that you're not the one doing it all.
Excellent. Tamika?
I agree with what Sonny and Miss Tracy have said. I have been in that position where I was what I refer to it as the chosen one, the one who had to kind of carry the weight, and the others didn't necessarily do as much as I felt that they could do. And what I had to realize is that, as Sonny said, we all kind of have our different strengths. And so I had to come to a place of understanding that, I love my aunt with my entire being, and I was going to do whatever I could do to make sure that she was okay, and had to remove the other people out of it. And I think sometimes that is the one thing that we have to do. We have to understand that we are only responsible for the actions that we take. We can't be responsible for what other people do or don't do. And I always tell caregivers, don't beat yourself up for what other people aren't doing. Do the very best you can with what you have. And if you don't get it all right today, that's okay. There's always tomorrow. Just do what you can. Love on that person as much as you can while they're here. And that way, when it's all said and done, your conscience is clear. I'm very big on making sure that I do all that I can for the people in my life now, so that when that time comes, my conscience is clear.
Amen. I believe we have an affirmation that was made. Yes. Thank you for your comments and questions. We will share them. Oh, okay. I think here it is. Johnny Lee. I think this is the affirmation. Excellent presentation. It does take time to learn how to recognize and then manage difficult situations. Thank you, Johnny Lee. That's absolutely correct. It is a process, and that's what we were hearing. I do believe we have another question that maybe we're going to share with the panel. It's from Neil Augustine. Thank you, Mr. Augustine. What advice would you give with a situation, folks? The three of you can take turns on this, where his mother takes off her clothes from the drawers and hides it in the closet in her bedroom. Any thoughts about that? And thank you, Mr. Augustine, for bringing that question to the table.
So I think, you make a good point. A lot of the times when someone living with dementia is hiding things, finding out what those familiar hiding spaces are, so that if it is something that's very important, like a wallet or keys or glasses that you need to find, you can check those common hiding spaces first. I think second, my approach to this might be trying to accommodate that behavior. So, you know, looking at maybe she is very used to using a closet and prefers to use that over a dresser. And then when she goes to move into the closet, maybe she's having a hard time getting them on a hanger. So I might first try getting the clothes hung up in the closet if you're able to and you have the room, and just trying that for a little bit and seeing if you can accommodate that behavior rather than having to move it back and forth every single time she moves the clothes, you move them back, and then she puts them back in the closet. So that would be the first thing that I would try. I don't know if Miss Tamika or Miss Tracy want to add anything.
Yeah, I would do the same, because I would identify maybe she's having a hard time with the drawer. So I would kind of assist her to moving it to the closet and then seeing if she would rather it in the closet as opposed to in the drawer. And then if she moves it from the closet back to the drawer, so I would kind of give her a little leeway. Maybe just put them in the closet for the time being to see if she would like that better. But then if she moves it back, play the game with her. Oh, look what I found. You went shopping and didn't tell me, and say, well, let's fold them and put them in the drawer and see how she reacts to that. But in the meantime, maybe she's having a hard time with the drawer and doesn't want them in the drawer for some reason. Maybe it's reminding her of something. So just kind of cooperate with her and move them to the closet and see how she responds to that.
Excellent. Anything, Tamika, that you want to add?
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And one thing that I did is I pared down the clothing because my aunt was a hider too. And so what I would do is I would, because the drawers and things were so packed full of stuff, she had a hard time kind of opening it and closing it. And so we just kind of, everything that she didn't really need, we took and just moved it to another bedroom and put it in another closet. And we also bought those organizer bins that we could, so you can have things hung up and you have those little organizer bins that have like the little, I don't know what they're called, the little baskets that go into them. And so that she could put things in there. So it wasn't like every time I was trying to find socks, it was a hide and go seek. I kind of knew there were limited places that things could be found. So it's just a matter of being creative. And sometimes you just got to think outside the box and understand that you want to make it easy for them, but you want to make it easy for yourself too. So if she has 5 coats in the closet and she's really only going to wear one, move the other 4 somewhere else just to give you that extra room to be able to put things so that you can kind of pare it down.
Thank you, Tamika. Well, I think I just have one question for the group, and then we'll just to respect the time for folks who've been aboard. One more question for the group. As a care partner for my wife, sometimes I find myself, and this is not something that I would aspire to do, actually wanting to do things for her because I just want to get the job done, and how would you help me in that regard and others and maybe you could relate to this when you maybe at times don't feel as patient as you would like to be?
Well,
Okay.
if it's
I'll go
it
first.
depending it okay, go ahead.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. What I was gonna say is that you have to take you out of the equation. If it's gonna take her all day to fold a load of clothes, as long as she is over there doing her folding and unfolding and she's quiet and happy, let her do whatever she needs to do. You can go on and do other things while she's working on the things that she needs to work on. We get so caught up in wanting to have everything done on a schedule and we got to get it done right now when our reality isn't their reality. So an hour for you might only be 5 minutes for them. So I just say, if it's not hurting anybody, let them do what they have to do and you go on and do your task.
I'll say an amen to that. Thank you for
Amen.
that suggestion. Now I just have to do it the next time that happens. I'm going to work on that.
Again, it's not easy, but it's worth it. It'll save you a lot of stress.
Amen.
It'll save
Thank
you a
you.
lot of stress.
Well, at any rate, folks, would you just go around the table here and make any final comments to the group, and I'll make my final comment last.
Thank you all again for being here and for having me. Caregiving can be very difficult. I encourage all of you to use your resources, whether that be a friend, a therapist, your faith community, and the Acts 2 program. They are there for you and will help support you. You can meet other caregivers who might have firsthand experience and can give advice on managing certain situations. And it's just such a wonderful program. So I encourage everyone on here to get involved.
Thank you all for having me. Thank you all for joining. It's been a pleasure. It's always a pleasure. Thank you, Dr. Rob. And again, as I always say, Acts 2 saved my life. I went through the Acts 2 program when I was a caregiver, and now I am a facilitator with the Acts 2 program. And I can't thank Acts 2 enough. Again, dealing with someone with dementia, it's difficult, but as I say, it's worth it. It's rewarding, and you have to have patience. And again, as Sister Tamika said, remove you from the situation and allow that person to be them, and respect their dis-ease, because it's not an easy journey for them. So again, thank you, and I hope that you all have a good night.
Miss Tamika?
I just second what Sunny says. Take advantage of resources that are available to you. Use me as a resource. So if you have questions that we didn't get a chance to answer tonight, feel free to reach out to me on my local cell phone number, 850-274-4945. Please feel free to give me a call. We will try to assist in any way that we can. And you're doing the very best you can with what you know right now. So don't beat yourself up about it.
Amen. I just wanted to thank our audience. We're going to have to close at this point. Miss Hill, would you please contact Tamika Norton Brown at 850-274-4945 for your particular question. I think it does deserve some time. Once again, it's 850-274-4945. I also wanted to encourage the audience, those who are still with us, to consider watching our other videos. This is, I believe, our 15th video presentation since the pandemic began. And I just think you'll find this, that the videos to be a wealth of information, ranging from dealing with challenging situations to questions about how to put your faith into action, as well as hospice and palliative care, just a whole range of different important sets of information for you to acquire through our videos. I want to thank the three members of our panel. What a great blessing to me personally to participate in this workshop. Excellent presentations. I also wanted to inform you that we will be having a workshop very soon on methods for increasing effective communication between family caregivers and their loved ones with dementia. It's just so important how we, as I think dear Tracy Wilkinson describes so effectively, how we talk to our loved one with dementia, the words we use, the affection that we show. Those small changes in our behavior can have big effects. So we're going to be focusing on strategies for increasing harmony and effective communication. And as Sonny Majewski spoke to, honoring the strengths of loved ones with dementia and encouraging autonomy and also self-appreciation for what they contribute to our lives. And we had really a strong testimony about Tracy Wilkinson's mom and how much she meant to the family. And it's clear to me that she was blessed to have such a dedicated daughter and other family members in the Wilkinson family. Boy, I'll tell you. Well, I'll stop there, folks. We appreciate you. Have a blessed evening. And please contact us if we can be supportive in any way. Bye for now.